So I know the first step to every single innovation that has ever happened. And it's the same step. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm not kidding. Every single innovation starts with this step. It's noticing. It's just noticing that something isn't quite right with the current situation and should be changed. You can't innovate if you don't take this very small, tiny, but critical step of noticing something is off. I'll give you two examples of how this actually plays out. Okay. So the first example, Jim is an engineer, 1986, working for Ford. Rainy afternoon, he hops into a car, pulls into the gas station, realizes that the tank is on the other side. He has to get back in the car. It's raining. He pulls in the right side. But in that moment of doing it, he was noticing that something was off. And by the time he got back to his desk, the lore goes that he wrote Ford a memo and said, I would like to propose a small addition to all passenger trucks and cars. His idea was a tiny arrow on the dashboard next to the fuel gauge, showing drivers what side of the car their gas tank was on. Ford loved it. Again, as lore goes, they prototyped it. And now Ford has it, but all cars have this arrow pointing to the side of the car that your gas gauge is on. And so it really started with Jim just noticing. And most of us notice, but we just complain. It stops there. But innovation, actually, you notice. And then the second step is creating a theory. And Jim created this theory of what works. He did try to teach drivers what side of the gas tank there was on. It's not like he's like, let's put it in the manual. Let's build a tutorial. He basically put the answer exactly where people need it. So that was the innovation, but it started with noticing. Okay, story two. This one is a bit personal. It's about my grandfather. So my grandfather was a salesman. He sold supplies to hotels. So he traveled with these catalogs, he took orders, sourced inventory, and he noticed. So he did that one critical step of noticing. And what he noticed is that hotels complained about the same thing. They complained that their guests thought their hotels were dirty, even when they weren't dirty. They're like, we just clean the rooms and the guests think that they're dirty. No matter how much effort the hotel was putting into clear cleaning services, the guests did not trust that the rooms were clean. And hotels would insist on this. And so this was the step my grandfather took. He noticed that there was an issue, something was off. And then the innovation is he came up with a theory. So my grandfather saw the problem pretty clearly. He's like, you can't argue with people about this. You have to show them. And so he started selling two things to hotels. Paper doilies for glassware. So this is like the thing that goes under your cup after the housekeeping cleans it. Like they place a small folded paper under the glass or on top of the glass to signal, basically without saying anything, that the glass has been cleaned. And then the second thing he started selling was the paper seals for the toilet seat. So basically like the little paper that goes over the toilet seat, which was a signal that the housekeeping had been there. So instead of telling people, his theory was you show people in the moment that they could have this thought that the hotel wasn't clean. Lore goes, guests immediately trusted their rooms more, complaints decreased, and obviously his sales of these things went up. So the Ford engineer, Jim, and my grandfather basically had two things in common. The first thing is they noticed that something was off. And then to innovate, you just can't stop at this step. Like, it's the first step to all innovation, but most of us stop there. We get annoyed, we stop. The second step is creating a theory and trying to fix it. By the way, I think in hindsight, this is kind of cool that the both of these theories are kind of similar, right? It's that if you want somebody to do something differently, the instinct could just be to tell them, educate them, persuade them, remind them in advance, and it mostly doesn't work. What does work is in the moment doing the intervention. So Jim's arrow worked because it was right when you pull up to the pump. My grandfather's paper doilies worked because it was right when they were having the thought that the room was not clean in the exact moment that trust was being formed or broken. And so maybe this is the secret to innovation, is that the most powerful innovations don't even feel like innovations at all. They actually feel like the obvious thing that should have been there the whole time. So I hope you go forth and I hope you notice more things. I hope you notice more things.